Tonight's story comes from a listener who, for the most part of their life, stayed silent, not because nothing happened, but because too much did. From a young age, they say the paranormal didn't just visit, it followed. Shapes that shouldn't exist, faces in mirrors, figures that appear, disappear, and return years later. As a child, they saw things no one believed. As an adult, those same things may have begun watching their children. Spirits with names, scenes that unfolded like windows into other worlds, and finally, an encounter so bright, so sudden, and so terrifying, it left even their dog frozen in fear. Was it a lifelong sensitivity to the paranormal? A series of coincidences? Or something, someone, that has been observing them for decades? Tonight, for the first time publicly, this listener shares their experiences, not asking for attention, but asking for answers. They call themselves the Weirdo. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Haunted America. I'm your host, but I am not alone today. I have on the line with me my good friend, JD. You may recognize him from our interview episode we did a while back. And for those that don't know, because I believe this might be the first episode I'm actually mentioning it here, Season 3 is coming to an end. And I believe at the beginning of Season 3 is when we did the interview episode with JD on the line. So all that being said, JD, go ahead, introduce yourself, buddy. Say hello to the people.
Hey everyone, obviously this is JD. I'm really excited about hopping on the episode today, and this is definitely going to be a new experience. It's not just an interview. I actually get to kind of react and to the same stories that we all have enjoyed the last few seasons. And speaking of the upcoming season, I'm super excited about it. Can't wait for more content.
Really quick before we get into the actual episode today, just a little spoiler, a little teaser, if you may. There is an interview episode part 2 coming out in a very short while for Season 4. So if you enjoyed the first interview episode, which a lot of you did, it is our third most listened to episode. Part 2 is coming out early January, beginning of Season 4. Stay tuned for more announcements about Season 4. We have a teaser coming out soon. But let's get into this episode. So I brought JD on the podcast today to help me with this episode, because I need somebody to be able to bounce these stories off of, to feed off of, and go along with this episode, because this email I got from I'm not going to say the listener's name, but this email I got, the subject line is "I am the weirdo, mister." That is the subject line. So obviously that caught my attention right away. And I got into reading, and you guys will see. This is a very interesting email.
This sounds okay. It's going to be a good one.
You ready for this, JD?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. Alright, before we dive back into tonight's haunted tale, I've got to tell you something that actually keeps me going through all these late night investigations. And that's Dubby Energy. Look, when you're up at 2 a.m. reviewing EVP recordings or scrolling through ghost footage, the last thing you need is a sugar crash or shaky hands. Dubby gives you clean, focused energy. No jitters, no crash, and definitely no creepy side effects. It's packed with natural caffeine, vitamins, and nootropics. Everything you need to stay alert when the shadows start to move. And if you want to try it yourself, here's a little treat. Or maybe a trick. Head to w.gg. Use the code HAUNT10 at checkout to save 10% on your order. That's HAUNT10 to get 10% off and keep your energy level higher than your EMF readings. W Energy. Fuel your focus and maybe your next ghost hunt. All right, I'm sorry for hitting you guys with the W ad, but I had to get it in there. Now,
may I add something before we get started on our episode?
Go ahead, buddy.
This episode is literally powered by W because it's like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I just got off work. He just got off work, and we're both exhausted. And literally, this is what's keeping us going: is W Energy.
Yeah, W is. I'm not one of those people that's gonna promote something I haven't tried or whatever. W is literally my new favorite thing. It actually gives you good energy and stuff. It's very good tasting. To me, it tastes like a. If any of you guys like that candy, a Sweet Tarts, I believe is what I think it tastes like. I haven't had one in forever, but it tastes like a Sweet Tart drink, like some of the flavors that I've tried so far. And I got an email today actually from them. Their punch flavor came back in stock, so I am placing an order for that using my discount code HAUNT10, saving myself 10% at checkout. All right. All that being said, let's get into the I Am Weirdo Mr. email. All right, here we go. Hi, I recently started listening to your podcast. I love it. I thought maybe I could finally get some answers. I've never shared any of these stories for lack of sounding crazy, except for my family, of course. When I say I am the weirdo, Mr., I mean it. So here we go. Since a very young age, it seems the paranormal has followed me. My mother often had friends over for tea or possibly day drinking. LOL. I was only 5 when I was watching cartoons in our living room and looked over to where our kitchen table was. I saw my mother's friend's legs under the table appearing to melt like a dripping candle. I sat and stared at them for what seemed like hours. I told my mother what I saw, and she thought it had to be a silly type of kid thing and just shrugged it off. I found out later in years, in my 20s, that my mother's friend was in a serious car accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. So let's talk about that really quick. First of all, when I first read this, I thought pretty much the same your mother thought, right? And that's, I mean, you said you were 5 or so at this time. That's, you know, it's just your mind playing tricks on you. It's your imagination. But then hearing you say that your friend's mom that you saw the legs start melting away was paralyzed from the waist down due to a car accident, maybe you were kind of going through a time slip type of thing there, you know, something of that sort, and kind of seeing into the future. You know what I mean? Your mind was letting you know eventually that part of her isn't going to be there anymore or work anymore type of thing. I don't know. What do you think about that, JD?
Well, the first thought in my head was the same thing. It's just, you know, kid being a kid. But after thinking about it, you know, a 5-year-old is really not going to comprehend so much about an accident and something leading to, you know, being paralyzed. And you've always said throughout the episodes that, you know, children are more apt to see things.
Right.
So it's almost like maybe something, either what you're saying, like a time slip, or maybe something is trying to maybe give her visions or give her sort of a, you know, a visual of what has happened.
Right. All right, let's move on here. Moving on to around age 6 or 7. 6, 7. Got it in, baby. 6, 7, 6, 7. No,
oh,
yeah. Moving on. I shouldn't have done it. I was getting dressed and putting on my shoes when I looked down the hallway to the large mirror in my mother's bedroom. I saw an older, bald-headed man dressed in white in my mother's large mirror, summoning me to come to him. This man would be around the age of my grandpa to me at the time. He kept motioning for me to come in. I ran out of my room screaming, "The man in the mirror, the man in the mirror." I was terrified, thinking he was the boogeyman. This happened more than once in a 2-week period. My mother just shrugged it off to be nothing. Years later in life, again, I was in the local mall with my sister, and the same bald-headed man dressed in all white walked by me. He seemed to stare into my soul as he passed by me. I felt my heartbeat elevate, and I panicked as if I was still that child sitting in my bedroom. I screamed to my sister, who was walking ahead of me. I grabbed her arm to have her turn around and look to see him, and he was gone. He spoke no words to me both when I was younger nor in the mall. I still have no answers for this experience. This to me seems, I don't know what he wants, but he obviously wants something to do with you. This is a spirit who found a way to manifest himself in a mirror to you, and then somehow had enough energy or something to manifest himself to you and to you only inside of a public space. And whatever you felt when he stared at you is what he wanted you to feel. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what he wanted from you, trying to motion you to come over to him in the mirror. But it was probably smart that you did not. And this is why I have JD on this episode with me. Somebody to bounce what I'm reading off of, because I'm not going to have answers to all this. I proofread this, and it's just, there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. You have anything you want to say to this, buddy?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, she saw him at the age of 7 in a mirror, and then years later sees him again. It's okay, so obviously it's someone that she does not know.
Yep.
Because, like, if it's a relative, usually as you grow older, you kind of see the family albums and things of that nature, and you will come across a picture. Oh, I've seen this person before, and it doesn't sound like this has occurred. So this seems to be some sort of like a strange entity, spirit of some sort that is, for some reason, chosen her as its line of communication.
Yeah, somehow attached to her in some sort of way. I would like to know if you've seen this spirit since. We're gonna, the farther we get into this email, we're gonna find out how old she is now and how old some of these stories are. But I would like to know if you've seen this person or this spirit, this entity, since all of that happened. Are you ready to move on to the next part?
I'm also wondering. I'm sorry. I kind of almost wondering if this lady has some maybe natural abilities
that she just hasn't explored or something yet.
Yeah, because when you first talked about the man in the mirror and then seeing him later, it almost made me think, sounds like a medium.
Yeah, being able to see him as clear as she did, and then being able to see him like just another person walking around the mall.
Exactly, because I mean, based on our discussions, just over the phone, that sounds very similar to you.
Right. Yeah, good call there. All right, let's move on to this next part. In my early 20s, I became a single mom and proudly bought my first home and some additional land in the Prescott, Arizona area. I often saw different spirits while living in that home on many different occasions. I remember there being a spirit that would play with my daughter. I would be doing dishes and look out the window and watch her talking to someone while she was on the swing, as if someone was swinging beside her, but there appeared to be no one. I asked her who her friend was, and she referred to him as Jake. He's my friend. I never taught my daughter to not believe, as I myself have seen so many things I cannot explain. On my way home from picking up my kids from the sitter, oddly, my youngest daughter pointed and asked me who that old man was by our front door as we were driving up our driveway. I struggled to find even a silhouette of who she was, of who she saw and who she was talking about. I found nothing. But I had the same panicked feeling, thinking, oh no, not again. Possibly the bald man in white was there for my daughter this time. I never actually saw this man she spoke about or heard of him again. Once again, there we go back to the younger children being able to see spirits more than a lot of people that grow up can, right? And that's a perfect thing right there. Her being friends with this spirit named Jake, talking to somebody outside, having that quote unquote imaginary friend that who knows really if it's imaginary or if she's seeing somebody, and then saying that she saw a man as you were driving back up to your house. Who knows who she was seeing? She could have saw that bald-headed man in all white that you saw in the mirror and at the mall. I would ask her if she could describe him to you even now, if that was a core memory that implanted itself in her mind. That Christmas is coming up. When you guys are together for Christmas, if she's still around, ask her if she remembers any of this. The next part here. One night while I was sleeping, I was awakened to a splashing sound and I smelled a dank... Okay, this story right here, okay. I was awakened to a splashing sound and I smelled a dank, fishy smell and heard lightly rippling water. Alarmingly, I sat up in my bed and all of a sudden a boat just manifested in the ceiling. I then remember seeing two chubby old men with fishing vests and fishing lures hooked into their hat brims, interacting as if they were old friends, and could see they were on a small lake and in a small boat. I could see houses with lights on in the background. I assumed it was nighttime. I could hear them talking and not being able to make out the words, and the fishy smell getting stronger and stronger. I said, "Who are you?" The two men stopped talking immediately, and one of the men asked the other, "Did you hear that?" Then the other fisherman said, "Yes," and the voice of a woman asked, "Who are you?" I watched the two men look around the lake, and then the whole scene just faded away before my eyes, as if to close up into a dark hole. I became quite disturbed at this point and went to sleep in my living room. I still have no answer for this. This to me sounds like you went on some sort of crazy time slip loop type thing. Like, I don't know how else to explain that, but that part of that story right there, frickin' just, it got me. I talk with my hands a lot. I wish y'all could see me right now. That story blew my mind. Like, that is just crazy. That's what it sounds like to me. If you guys are listening on YouTube or Spotify, you guys have the ability to comment down below. Please do so. Help our friend here, fellow listener of the show, to tell her what you guys think. Help give her some of these answers, because my mind is blown. I have a
comment.
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay. Now this is really going to get crazy, okay? It almost sounds like she somehow entered another like parallel dimension, like where they're living in another time at another place,
Yeah, like a time slip type
because
thing.
it's almost like she is the ghost in
Yeah.
this scenario.
It's freaking weird, man. It is weird. It's strange. That is basically, that's what I'm trying to say. It sounds like she entered some sort of time slip type thing. And yeah, exactly like you said, she became the spirit in this instance that the two fishermen couldn't see, right? And she was there somewhere on the edge of the lake, and they could hear her, but they couldn't see her. It is weird, man, and it makes you think how many other people, have things like this happen to them, and they don't want to say it. They don't want to mention any of this because they're afraid of getting judged, or, oh, you're crazy, let's check you in down the road at the local loony bin, something like that. When in reality, I mean, you might be experiencing something paranormal, extraterrestrial, whatever, you know what I mean? You might not be nuts. You might not be loopy. You could be actually experiencing something that we just actually cannot explain.
Something else I would like to add, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that in the previous segment, the little one seeing a man.
Okay.
So to me, it's like, okay, that could explain this in two different ways. One, it could be that, similar to your grandfather, he had a medium abilities, and he taught you, how to use those.
Right.
It could be a situation like that where she has these abilities and hasn't quite understood them and honed them in.
Right.
And now it's sort of passed on, like almost like hereditary. And now she's experiencing them. Or, and this is to your point about asking for more descriptive, of this man, is what if there's something to this man that they haven't figured out, and it's attached itself to this family?
Yeah, what if he's still around and just hasn't shown himself in a little while or something?
Because they moved away, so obviously if it is this man, it has attached itself to the family. There's no doubt about it.
All right.
I don't know. That's just my thoughts anyway.
Well, that's why I have you on here, because I mean, I want somebody to be able to bounce these stories off of and get more, possibly give her the most possible answers possible. You know what I mean? And that's why I said something. Go ahead.
And the human brain is like, we don't understand half of it,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, she may have sensitivities that not all of us have, that have been unlocked. Maybe that's why she's able to see these time slips, because this is if that is indeed what it is, this is the second one, with the the melting legs and now the boat.
Yep.
So it's almost like maybe she's got a superhuman ability to see things and hear things that our brains just haven't been unlocked to do, but hers has been.
Right. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, this is just crazy. We have one more story that she sent in here in this email. I'm going to read, this is a longer story here. I'm going to read her ending and everything too, and then we'll get into it, and then, we'll close up the episode. If you guys are listening on Spotify or YouTube, you guys can comment down below. Like I was saying earlier, if you guys have any explanations that you want to give your input on as to what any of this could be, by all means, please comment below and help us out here. Because I can only say so much, I only have my own input and my own opinions on things, You guys might have more to say. And it seems like with this, The more possible explanations, the better. So let's get into this last half here of this email. Thank you for going on my somewhat weird and crazy journey down memory lane. Last one I will share, as I could write for days on things that have happened to me. Move my mic here and sit up a little bit. It was late summer of 2022. I was in my studio. To give you an idea of the setup, my studio is on the back side of my property and I have to walk down a bit of a path to get to it. It was very dark at night with no lighting. I am a silversmith and was working on getting some jewelry completed in preparation for my upcoming show. My dog, Blaze, a loyal gray Staffordshire pit bull, who always wanted to be with me in the studio, was with me that night. As usual, time got away from me and I realized it was now about 10 o'clock and it was time to wrap it up for the day. "Let's go, buddy," I said. As always, I activated my phone's flashlight to guide me back to the house. But this night was a little different. Oh boy. I opened my studio door and abruptly froze to the sight of a light, being which was so bright it hurt my eyes. My dog whimpered and immediately scuttled behind me. This incredible light passed right before me, and I think I scared it as much as it scared me. It turned and looked at me. I will try to describe it. Very light, piercing brightness and huge eyes with long arms and fingers. It seemed to be not too tall and could identify its gender, but once our eyes met, it turned its head forward and looked off like a flash and was gone. My mind is just blown because I've never seen nothing like this. Let's continue. I had a total... Okay, I must have missed this part. I had total heart failure. I was shocked, stunned, and I ran so fast into the house, tripping over my dog to beat him inside. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that. All the while, this being is following me, but gleefully it didn't. But my husband was met with my face as white as a ghost. 2 days later, I had a ridiculous dream where 2 aliens came into my room and levitated me up in the air and turned me over. And that's when I woke up. I don't know if the alien returned, this time with friends, or if the bright being I saw instructed them to do so, or if it was simply a dream. I have to tell you, I took the time to search in the... Okay, my bad. Took the time to search in the shower for cut marks or points of incision on my body, wondering if anything happened to me. I tuned into so many alien shows I could find to try to get answers and succumb to the possibility that yes, I may have been abducted, although I cannot account for any loss of time. I hope you can decipher my mini stories and give some answers. Like I said, there's so many more odd paranormal incidents that I have had experienced in my 60 years that I keep a journal. I'm not sure why I am chosen for these incidents. Certainly has made for a strange and interesting life. Signed, just me being normal. Wink. Holy cow. Guys, I'm sorry if that last part was hard to listen to me read. My mind is just blown, as no offense to people that have sent in like stories before, but this blows my mind, because I think we've only done 1 or 2 episodes on like possible alien experiences and like aliens so far into this whole podcasting journey we're on. And it's a little hint towards season 4 again here. No. We plan on getting more into cryptids, aliens, actual haunted locations, all that stuff in season 4. So this is perfect because this is a little bit of a, pre-show before the show type thing, I guess. Okay. I think it definitely could have been aliens, right? That big light that she saw right in front of her could have been some form of alien being. She said long arms, long fingers, And there are so many different possible alien life forms out there. You know, whenever we say alien, people normally think about a gray, little tiny human or looking thing, you know what I mean? Big head, big eyes, you know, green thing, whatever, you know? That's normally what people think about. But if you actually look into it, that's not all aliens can quote unquote be. You know, there are many different forms of alien life forms. It is totally possible this could have been an alien. And it was in your yard. You startled it. It didn't know you were in your shed, in your little studio, you know? And then it came back a couple days later and wanted to examine what it may have encountered, which just happened to be you. It's very strange. It is very strange. What do you think, buddy?
When she was describing it, the first thing that I thought was alien. You know, large eyes, long arms, long fingers, a lot. That was the first thing I thought of was alien. And, you know, I think it kind of maybe backs up my theory that I just laid out in the previous story. Maybe she just has a very her mind is her brain is like more open and being used more in certain areas, you know, that like normal humans don't access,
Right.
And have that ability. And I mean, if I'm an alien and I see something unique like that, what am I want to do? I'm going to go and find out what I need to find out about this. I would find it to be very unique, and I would want to learn about it.
Right. This, like I said, guys, this is the craziest email we have received so far into this Haunted America podcasting journey. And I'm very grateful that you sent this in. I would love to hear more, and I'm sure the listeners would love to hear more.
Yeah, definitely. Much more.
I see why we're titling this The Weirdo, because this is weird. It is very weird. I'm sorry I do not have all the answers that I'm sure you probably wish I could have provided for you. It is just, my mind is blown, right? There's so much.
I genuinely believe this person has abilities. I really do.
Well, she said, there's so many more oddities, odd paranormal incidents that I have experienced in my 60 years that I keep a journal. I beg of you to open that journal and email some more of those stories to us, as I would love to share them on the upcoming season. And like I said, once again, guys, if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, please comment down below your thoughts on some of these stories that this listener has shared with us tonight. That is all for tonight's episode of Haunted America. From me and JD, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. We are winding down on season 3. Season 4 coming very soon. Very soon. Like the new year soon, depending on when you're listening to this. Okay? Okay. Season 4, we are jumping into oddities, haunted objects, cryptids, aliens, more haunted locations, and actually discussing the hauntings that go on at these places. Please, if you feel obligated as much, leave a comment, follow the podcast, rate the podcast. It would really mean a lot to me. We have grown exponentially this year, the year of 2025. This podcast has boomed, and I have high hopes into where we are going with this upcoming year. That's going to do it for today's episode. Let me know what you guys think about the Weirdo.